Hello and welcome to Nation Wants to Know. Thanks for joining us on this very special broadcast. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, today is an opportunity to salute our braves. It's a very rare moment where we get the opportunity to witness what they do in terms of adversity, when faced with adversity, how they stand steadfast. A moment of pride for this entire country. All that and more after the headlines. Well, let's take a look at the headlines at this point in time. The big development. Skirmishes at the border recurring frequently, says India set to usher in a new era of tax reforms. Hours before the GST becomes a reality, Rahul adds his bit of criticism, calls the reform half-baked effort aimed at self-promotion. Congress, DMK, Left and Trinamool Congress to give midnight inaugural session a miss but can't get everyone aboard. Samajwadi Party, National Conference and the NCP to attend the event, beg your pardon. Prime Minister's warning falls on deaf ears. Even in BJP-ruled states, 45-year-old lynched in Jharkhand on suspicion of carrying beef. India fights against these beef bigots, but there is no political will to stop the lynch mob. 2 incidents in 3 days, but Jharkhand Chief Minister still silent. Tamil Nadu Governor takes note of Times Now's cancer for cash expose, seeks action taken report from the state government. Karti Chidambaram evades CBI summons linked to INX media deal, seeks more time, but what is Karti running from? Mehbooba government gives in to terrorists, shuts down schools in the valley as Hizbul calls for a shutdown to commemorate Burhan Wani. And India puts Beijing in its place, sends out a stern message, tells China, the aggressor, not to change the status quo. And now to that moment where we get to salute our braves, that moment where we get to celebrate what these braves, our men in uniform, do for our country day in and day out tirelessly. They hold the line. They do not allow the enemy to trespass. They maintain the sanctity of our borders. That is what our braves are able to do. We showed you the visual proof of a skirmish the other day round, but today we'll show you the whole video. We'll also show you what they say. The entire feeling that comes across, a chance for us to salute our braves here on Nation Wants to Know. Tonight we present to you the audio, the transcript. Chief Editor Rahul Shivshankar joins us live. Rahul, what a moment it is when we heard that audio. It's just the spirit with which our forces displayed their resolve to push the enemy back at the line of actual control. That's what stands out of this video.
No, absolutely. We need to actually boost the audio on those because we've been now accessing the video. We have brought that to you a few days back. Now we've been able to actually go in and get you the audio of what was actually said. And quite frankly, Anand, that gave me goose flesh because it just shows you the determination with which India's braves are holding the line, ensuring that the Chinese don't intrude further into Indian territory, don't bully our allies, and most importantly, the determination to ensure that the Chinese do not think we are pushovers like it happened in 1962. So the fact of the matter is that as far as India is concerned, along with the diplomatic hardening of stance, which we will talk about in just a few moments, are Indian braves, just like they do in the jungles of Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, just as they do along the LOC in Jammu and Kashmir, just as they do in the northeastern reaches of our country, they are also today holding back aggressors. This aggressor, of course, is a particularly bellicose one. Why? Because China thinks it owns the world, quite frankly. It is a country that has a massive hegemonistic design over parts of Asia and Africa, as also, of course, Latin America. And if it had its way, it would even hold sway over reaches of Europe. And its attempt today to build the One Belt, One Road into the heart of Europe is basically a precursor of that ambition. But before we talk a little bit about these issues, let's first listen to this audio. We have been able to access the audio. Let's listen to the audio, and you judge for yourselves the commitment with which India is giving it back to these Chinese soldiers.
सर प्लीज एक फोटो दो सर ऐसे लगाओ बाहर आना और बंदे निकालो सारे Ravedi, I am telling you again, this is not the way. Please, don't use force. इतने आगे और आगे बनाओ. No, Ravedi, no. I'm telling you, don't do it. Please, don't. No. अगर वो हिल गया ना पूरी कंपनी को बनाओ पूरी कंपनी को बनाओ बच्चे को पकड़ लो No, you are doing it. You are pushing. तुम इनके फोटो भी खींचो इनकी भी खींचो पकड़ते हुए ये देखो ही होल्डिंग भी ऐसे खींची तक
We see that, Rahul. The entire video, if you were to break it down slowly, the first thing that stands out to me, at least when I watch this video, is that we are the ones who are defending and showing restraint. India is not the one that is walking ahead and surging ahead and pushing through. It's the Chinese who are. Very clearly evident that they are the ones who are the aggressors, but India putting their hands down, and all they do is a bear hug. And you have somebody telling the boys, "Chhodna nahi, khade raho wahin pe." And that's the spirit.
Absolutely. I mean, if you just look at it, what are the Indian soldiers saying? They are warning the Chinese not to get aggressive. Because they know once the Chinese get aggressive and they are trying to provoke very cleverly the Indian soldiers might hit back. And once we hit back, then China will take the moral high ground. So they walk into basically Bhutan. They want to build a road to cut off India's northeast. India objects obviously to this infringement of our territorial integrity and our territorial rights. and the Chinese try to provoke us. They're being very cheeky and clever. So they are hoping that one of the Indian soldiers loses it for a few moments, hits back, gets violent, and then there's a free-for-all, and they get an excuse to defame India and India's disciplined army. So the Indian Jawans there are saying very clearly, "Chuna mat inko, haath niche rakho," and they're telling each other, "Keep your hands down. If you have to, just stand your ground. Don't allow them." And we say, "We are taking your photographs, so don't try some fast ones on us. Don't pull some stunts on us." So very cleverly, India is actually, our braves are actually working to ensure that the Chinese don't spark a situation which they can use to their advantage. So this is what is happening. Look at the discipline of the Indian soldier. One has to salute this kind of discipline. One has to actually accept that India has a very law-abiding military, and all those who come out and criticize the Indian military today must actually look at this video, and they must ask themselves whether they're doing a disservice by calling into question the commitment, the discipline of our men in braves. Just listen to this. Here India for the first time hold the line. They're working to a plot, Anand. Take photos, take it. They're telling each other, take the photos, ensure that there is no situation that arises where China tries to provoke and mess things up. Listen to the whole tape once again. Let's listen once again, because this is an instruction in discipline. Let's listen.
Sir, please take photograph. Sir, ऐसे लगाओ. No. और बंदे निकालो सारे. अरे बोलो. Ravedi, I'm telling you again, this is not the way. Please, don't use force. पकड़ ले. इतने आगे और आगे बनाओ. Ravedi, I'm telling you, don't do it. Please, don't. No. अगर वो हिल गया ना. यार बंदे बनाओ, पूरी कंपनी को बनाओ, पूरी कंपनी को बनाओ. पूरी कंपनी को बनाओ. बच्चे को पकड़ लो. No, you are doing it. You are pushing. तो इनके फोटो भी खींचो. इनकी भी खींचो पकड़ते हुए. ये देखो ही होल्डिंग भी कैसे खींची तक.
Well, Anand, you saw that. You saw that this is very, very, very indicative of a very clever attempt by the Chinese to try and instigate our forces. But just look at the way our boys deal with these Chinese and their clever little tactics. So basically, we're taking photographs, establishing that the Chinese are on our side of the border, or what is perceived to be our border. Then they are ensuring that we actually catch hold of them, grasp them, not hit them, grasp them, and basically hold them so that photos can be taken. So when there are flag meetings, these photos can be exchanged as proof that you have intruded onto our side. Most importantly, Anand, look at the coordination. This is all happening at 15,000 plus feet. You know, where the air is actually rare. You need to be very physically strong to use your chest, to use your legs, to try and stop somebody. Our arms are by our sides. And we have ensured that the Chinese are checked, Anand, at that height where the air is rare. You have to be supremely fit, supremely strong, and it's all showing on camera. Anand.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And we are asking our viewers to call in and commend our braves. If you can just, look at the language. This is how they are standing. This is how they are standing. This is the resolve. And it's the Chinese who are pushing our soldiers back, trying to enter, and they are being the aggressor. And then you have the bear hug. You have the bear hug saying, you want to push me, you push me, but I'm going to hold you tight because I'm not going to let you far. I'm not going to allow you to come beyond this point. And then you have the commanding officer salute to him. Look at the resolve and presence of mind that he has. He's calling on his guys and saying, let's call for reinforcements as required. But you guys group in. You guys form this line here and don't allow them to squeeze past. You have one of the Chinese guys who's actually trying to push through as if it's like a tackle in a football game or in a rugby game. And you have these two guys standing there blocking them. The defense is strong. Their quarterbacks failed. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Because the defense stands solid, rock solid, and it's our Indian Jawans who are standing rock solid there, Rahul. And they're standing there with that spirit saying, no, we won't let you. And then he's got the presence of mind. On one side, he's directing the defense to try and mitigate this offense from the Chinese soldiers. And then he's telling the others. He's got one or two of those guys who are floating around with the camera and saying, take this guy's picture. See how this Chinese soldier is actually pushing me and being aggressive. Film this so that we have the proof. That is what is the presence of mind, and that is what is on display. When you match the video with the audio and then you hear what's going on there, and this is a host of skirmishes that have happened over the last 10-15 days.
Yeah, and there's breaking news coming in. I believe there's breaking news coming in, Anand, on precisely that point. There has been an escalation. We have been speaking to government sources. We had collated this information a little while ago. Let's put that out. Pranesh is there actually with us, who is going to put that out right now. Pranesh just put that out, the original breaking news. That's the one big earlier, and you can see that's it. LAC skirmishes cast shadow over ties. That's what we are hearing. Srinjoy Chaudhary has brought this report to us. India has hardened its stand against China. And what we are being told is that the possibility of a meeting between the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi of China has been now totally ruled out on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Hamburg. And there could be, if things come together, a pull-aside meeting, but nothing beyond that. There was a very real possibility that the two leaders would have actually met with each other, held talks at some length, but that's not happening anymore. I just want to go across to Srinjoy. Srinjoy, you've heard that this particular skirmish, is now actually snowballing into a bit of a diplomatic incident. And what is actually happening is that it's casting a bit of a shadow over what has been described as a mature, cordial relationship between India and China. And we're being told, Srinjoy, that what could possibly have led to a meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi of China now is pretty much out of the question. It's not going to happen. There might be a pull aside, but even that seems a bit unlikely. Srinjoy.
Yes, Rahul. First of all, even before that, the Chinese seem to have let us down. In Astana, Xi and Modi had a very good meeting. And Modi made it very clear that he said that, look, we have differences, but let us ensure that they not become disputes. This is something President Xi actually agreed to. And then Modi said to Xi that, look here, this is a very difficult time in the international order today. India and China should be even more responsible. And again, President Xi agreed to this. Now, after that, for this to happen, which is why at Hamburg, there was no talk at this point, up to this point, at this point, there is no talk of a bilateral. Yes, there could be a pull aside. Maybe if there is a change of plan, there could be a bilateral. But at this point, there is no talk of a bilateral, which is very unfortunate, because if the Chinese had agreed to a bilateral at this point, maybe at the highest level this could have been sorted out. But here, President Xi agreeing that yes, differences should not lead to disputes, and suddenly, all of a sudden, you have a Chinese PLA bringing in earth movers, bulldozers, trying to build a road that would be very, very crucially close to the Siliguri corridor.
Right.
That is something India has objected to. India does not want a motorable road right on the edge of the Siliguri corridor, right infringing into Bhutanese territory. There are Indian soldiers there, there are Chinese soldiers there. The face-off continues.
Shinjoy, this is something which has been agreed upon between Bhutan, India, and China. There are agreements which very clearly say that we maintain status quo and we try and develop whatever the tri-nation issues are. We try and resort it and solve it amicably without any aggression. But this is a violation of that status quo by China, who's the aggressor. Major General G.D. Bakshi and Jaidev Ranade. Good evening, sir, to both of you. First, going across to Major General G.D. Bakshi. Sir, Times Now's report stands confirmed. The MEA's reaction also confirms that Sikkim has been a little bit of an issue now with the cancellation of pilgrims and the Mansarovar Yatra. And what these reports that have come forth, very clearly China's trying to turn up the aggression on that area, in that area. General Bakshi, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Anand, I would like to state that this area is strategically very, very vital. Look, the Doklam Plateau is just 50 kilometers from the Siliguri corridor. In fact, from the mouth of the Siliguri corridor, the Chicken's Neck, which is just 17 kilometers wide. If you are constructing a road over here, and that too a class 40 road alignment, you can bring in medium artillery, heavy guns, light tanks and such heavy equipment, including multi-barrel rocket launchers. And when you get them to the Doklam Plateau, you could bring the Siliguri corridor under the fire of your artillery. So quite obviously, India cannot sit back and just watch as a road is constructed under its very nose through the disputed Doklam Plateau. Now, as per the agreement between Bhutan and China, 1988, 1998, they were supposed to be discussing this, and status quo ante was supposed to be maintained. So there was also talk of the Chinese wanting to swap this Doklam Plateau for two enclaves on the northern side. But nothing has been agreed to, and therefore status quo ante had to be maintained. We were also discussing in the boundary talks the issue of the tri-junctions. So why is China trying to queer the pitch? And why this reaction which links up the Mansarovar Yatra, which is such an emotive issue for our people, which is a religious issue.
That's the point.
Far greater than Tawang ever is to the Chinese. To the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Jains.
Bakshi, this is a planned aggression, sir, and they are doing it deliberately to try and put pressure on India. And it's heartening to see that the government has taken a stronger position and said that if our braves are going to stand there and hold the line, we are also going to back our braves and we are also not going to give in. The India of 2017 is not the India of 1962, so the Chinese might want to remember, get reminders of the ghosts of the past. But India is trying to say that those are all long gone. Those demons don't scare us anymore, and we are not going to bow down to these kind of tactics. General Bakshi, please stay with me. Mr. Ranade, before I come across to you, sir, Times Now was one of the only channels down on ground at the spot, and we have a report coming through. It's a very special report that Prashant Kumar has filed. Before we go across to him live, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the ground report.
Reports of Chinese aggression and unfair means are emerging at the Indo-China border. Times Now is reporting from Natula Pass, one of the forward posts at the Indo-China border. The locals and those traveling in and around China told Times Now that the scuffle that was caught on camera last week was quite a regular affair at the border. They, however, admitted that the number of incidents have gone up several notches over the past few weeks. So, at a time when China is resorting to unfair means and has retorted to aggression, how soon the transgression ends at the Indo-China border is something that we'll have to wait and watch. With Mohan Singh, Prashant Kumar, for Times Now.
Shinja Chaudhary, our National Affairs editor, stays on with us. Senior editor Nikunj Garg also joining us. Before I go across to them for more updates on from what the centre has to say and the position that the government is taking, just going across to Prashant joining us live at this point. Prashant, what's the ground report? How long have these skirmishes been going on? And the video that we are showing to our viewers, it's not just a one-off. There seem to be regular issues with the Chinese along that tri-junction.
Well, absolutely, Anand, and when I spoke with some of the people who were in fact from the local villages there near the border, and also some of the taxi drivers who would usually ferry passengers to the border, they were of very clear opinion that there have been skirmishes over the past few years, but over the past few weeks it has just gone up by several notches, and this is something that the taxi drivers and some of the local villages who were not willing to be named, they told Times Now, and we have that very exclusive sequence for our viewers also. But clearly at a time when the borders, the policemen, the army men over there are protecting our nation, protecting the LAC, the Chinese transgression is increasing day by day, and it can be heard from a lot of people, a lot of localites there. And if you enter the ground zero, you will have a sense of what actually is happening, with even a 5-year-old kid knowing that Chinese army is someone who clearly crosses the border and comes into India just to provoke us, just to destroy some of our bunkers. And this is what is happening here on ground, Anand. Back to you.
Well, thanks for the update, Prashant. I'll go. Well, the government has taken a position. They have said we are not going to blink this time. Nikunj, before I come across to you and before we go across to Mr. Ranade, I have to take a very short break. Please stay with us, gentlemen, and our reporters, please stay with us. To our viewers, see you on the other side with more. Well, in my hand is the MEA release today, a day after the Bhutanese government also condemned the Chinese incursion and aggression, act of aggression at that tri-junction, very clearly saying 16th of June, a PLA construction party entered the Doklam area and attempted to construct a road. It is our understanding that a Royal Bhutan Army patrol attempted to dissuade them from this unilateral activity, confirming very clearly that there have been standoffs between the Indian Army, the Bhutanese Army and the Chinese PLA troops who've been regularly trying to incur and try and show an act of aggression and try and establish domain over that tri-junction area, breaking the status quo. Before we go across to our guests and our reporters for more perspective, just here's a recap. All right, we've got another caller with us, Vinesh from Bengaluru. Vinesh, even as I speak to you, good evening. Look at the resolve our Braves are showing. Can we play out those visuals, please, that video as Vinesh talks to us? Yes, Vinesh.
Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Hello.
Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes, Vinesh, go ahead, please.
Yeah,
yes, Vinesh, go ahead.
Which I have been following from last 2-3 days. Hello.
Yes. Yes, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, I just want to say that these type of clips should be shown to the person called Salman Khan and one more that Azam Khan and Arundhati Roy and the communist leaders. Those are criticizing our brave soldiers. Now they should see this and keep their mouth shut permanently, and they should not criticize our army and insult our great soldiers who are showing this much restraint in such a tough condition.
You're echoing my thoughts, Vinesh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for calling in. You're echoing my thoughts and also the thoughts of a lot of our viewers tuning into this broadcast here on Nation Wants to Know. Thank you very much. Before we play out the video, let's just get the sense from the government. We had the Army Chief, Nikunj, as I bring you in along with Shinjoy, we had the Army Chief visit the area. There have been instructions given, and I think the instructions are very clearly that we are not going to blink.
Well, Anand, I had an hour-long meeting with the Minister yesterday, and this hour-long meeting we only discussed China and this latest standoff with China. And the Minister's entire spiel during that conversation was that there are two important points, that this is a face-off that is not going to end anytime soon. He said that because the usual practice has been that India has shown a large reservoir of patience in dealing with Chinese, and most of the times actually withdrawn from the positions where we should not have also been withdrawing. The Chinese have accommodated part of our concerns too, but this time it is not happening. He told me that the Prime Minister's office directive to all the line ministries, including the Ministry of Home and Defence and others, is absolutely clear. Do not meddle with this. We will deal with it ourselves, as in the Prime Minister office will take it up with the Chinese, and therefore the fact is that the government of India is dealing with it with this at the utmost seriousness, and our troops are certainly not going to take even a step back. This entire exercise is not in an attempt to show the Chinese that we also can stand their pressure, but trying to send a message across the globe, the fact that the times that India will cede any space to buy peace or to accommodate Chinese concerns, what perceivedly were Chinese concerns, are over. And therefore India will hold its ground. India will hold its ground for its allies too, and that message is absolutely clear from right at the top apex of this government's political authority, and that's what you are seeing in the determination of the soldiers also there, because the message is very loud and clear to them as well.
Well, thanks for that. So I think the simple message is that we are never going to cede more space or back down or cow down from the dragon. We're going to stand there, stare the dragon back in the face and push the dragon back if required. That's the message that's coming out from the soldiers at the border and the government at large. Two more callers with us before I go across to Mr. Ranade. Yes, good evening, Colonel Atul calling us from Gurugram. Good evening, Colonel. Go ahead, please.
Firstly, let me thank you that you, despite all those, focus on GST, you have taken up a very, very important, matter on television and brought this entire confrontation which we are having with the Chinese on a very, very regular basis. Right? Please be assured that 2017 is not 1962. The Indian Army is so pretty strong that we will give a very befitting reply to the Chinese. Media is well behind the army.
play out that video that gives you not just visual but also audio proof of how our braves at the line of actual control managed to hold the line in the face of Chinese aggression.
I'm telling you again, this is not the way. Please, don't use force.
What a moment, what a feeling. They hold the line for us. In turn, in faced with adversity, they show presence of mind, but more importantly, they show the resolve. They stand steadfast to guard our borders. It's time to salute our braves. And to those who question them, it's time you apologize. Thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Nation Wants to Know. It's the News Watch up next. Stay with us.
Will your kitchen bill go up or down? Eating out cheaper or expensive? Vacations, dream or reality? Cars expensive or affordable? Medical expenses, up or down? One destination, all answers. GST Trist, all day today on Times Now.
listen. Congress, DMK, left and the Trinamool to give midnight inaugural session a miss, but can't get everyone on board. The Samajwadi Party, the NCP, will attend the event. Look at those visuals. These are the men who ordered China to get out of Indian territory along the line of actual control. Skirmishes along the LAC increase by the day. Big India-China diplomatic standoff brews. Center says no Modi-Xi meet on the sidelines of the G20 summit. No bilateral. The only option now is a pull aside. Prime Minister's warning falls on deaf ears even in BJP-ruled states. 45-year-old lynched in Jharkhand on suspicion of carrying beef. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are counting down to the biggest tax reform of independent India. The goods and services tax will be in effect from midnight tonight. There is confusion and chaos as to how our lives change once this tax regime comes into effect. Small traders going to be the worst hit in this entire transition. Hina Gambhir now joins us from Mumbai with representatives of the trading community, and she's got quite a handful of them. Hina, over to you.
Well, thanks, Anand. Indeed, it is going to be a historic tax reform that India is going to see come 1st of July 2017. Just a few hours are left, but remember, there is some bit of confusion that can be felt on the ground to get a sense of what the retailers are facing in terms of the problems before GST and what are their concerns. We are now joined by heads of various associations in Mumbai. We have with us Mr. Viren Shah, who represents the Federation of Retail Traders Welfare Association. We have Mr. Ajay Modi, who will be talking to us about the small and medium size industries and what are their concerns. We have with us Mr. Ramneek Shera, who will be talking to us about the Kirana stores and the problems that they face. And we have Mr. Damji M. Palan from Chemist Association, who will be talking to us about the issues that chemists really have, because after GST, the invoicing is going to change, the taxation structure is going to change, and as a result, exactly the way business is going to be done, that is going to change as well. The rules of business will be changing. Mr. Shah, let me start with you. Thanks for speaking with us here on Times Now. Now just a few hours are left, and it's going to be a new era of tax structure that we are likely to see. What are your concerns as far as GST is concerned?
See, so first of all, we all are prepared. We have been giving a lot of education to all our traders from every different areas. Most of the people are no, but still there is a lack of education. People have problems of the computer, network, all these issues are there. But I want to bring the main point, which is the invoicing. Now B2C, when we are selling it to the consumer, which consumer is not its end user, he's not going to sell it to somebody else. So there is a provision where we have to write too many things like percentage on what items, tax, or how much is the tax. Plus we have to ensure that there is a digital signature of each and every bills, which is not required. HSN code, obviously there is a clarification which has come. But these are the points which are not required. This unnecessarily takes away a lot of paperwork. And one more point which I want to bring it to the finance ministry is the school kids issues, like school kids uniform, the school bags, oil colors, compass box. These were earlier 6% VAT. Now it has come to 28% GST. I mean, why the school kids should be suffered in this?
So clearly there, one concern is, of course, that, they will have to fill forms, and, of course, computers will have to be used because the entire system is going to change. Plus, for school children, things are likely to get expensive. Mr. Ajay Modi, let me come to you now. What are your concerns? What are the concerns of small and medium enterprises as far as GST goes?
All over the Maharashtra or all over the India, the micro, small, medium entrepreneurs have welcomed this GST. But today is the very big problem of this site. Till today, the GST site is not working properly. Till 4:30 today,